So I have three kind of epically different adventures coming up, and I want to share a little bit about them preemptively because traveling is really challenging with a chronic illness and with Addison's disease. And I want to give a glimpse into it and how I prepare for it and how I prepare for different ones. And in reality, it's kind of, some of these things are seeing how much can I do and pushing myself to the limit in a safe way. And I want to share that experience with you guys. So in this video, I'm kind of just talking about the trips that I have coming up, and then before and during each trip, I will do my best to share what's going on with my body, with my illness, and traveling in general. So I have three very different trips coming. One by car, one by plane, and one by foot. And each one will require different preparation and needs while I'm on my trip. First trip I'm taking is a road trip to a friend's wedding, which I've always really loved road trips, but after being diagnosed and getting sicker pre-diagnosis, I had a harder time sitting in the car for long periods of time. I still really like to do it and I get really excited about it, but I find that after about 4 hours of sitting in the car, my body starts to get really low cortisol, really exhausted. So I have things that I do to prepare for that. In the car, I will bring my soundproof headphones. I will bring pillows, I'll bring blankets, things to compress on, all of my magic crystals. And the great thing about traveling by car is that you can have everything you want. So in the back seat, I'll literally have all of my food pre-made in my cooler, ready to go. I can pull out anything that I need to support my body. Digestion's really off when I travel. So I like to, when I'm traveling by car, I like to pre-make smoothies and keep them in a cooler and have like liquid-based things, lots of kombuchas, lots of stuff to make tea. So that way, if I'm having a hard time with digestion, I can just do liquids, which is really supportive. Yeah, so I've got this like 8-hour road trip coming up by car. And so there's that trip to prepare for, and I'll share about that as that's happening. The next trip I'm going on is totally hilarious and random international trip to China. My partner and I are pretty nerdy Jackie Chan fans, and we entered a contest to go celebrate his Kung Fu action film festival in China this year, and we won. So we're going to China, which is hilarious for a million reasons. But traveling by plane with a chronic illness is super challenging. Traveling by plane internationally, now that's a whole nother adventure, which I have not done since being diagnosed. So I'm going to be learning and sharing as I go what's happening in my body. I have bought all my packaged food to take on this trip because I cannot bring anything homemade or not in its original packaging. And I am most likely not going to be able to eat anything there, and probably won't eat anything there no matter what, just for safety for my own body, because the last thing I want to do is be sick in another country that I am not fluent in their language. So that's going to be an epic journey where I share all about what the flight has done to my body and how I navigate through that. Obviously, I'll be living with my Vogue face mask on, my soundproof headphones, probably my blue tinted sunglasses to help with anxiety. I typically normally take CBD oil to help with stress and anxiety and pain, but I don't think I'm going to be able to bring it into the country because I don't know the rules and I don't want to have any issues. So I'll just take a bunch right before I go. We'll only be there for a little bit of time, so that's going to be a quick turnaround on my body, and we'll see what that's like. But it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm going to go. We are taking major safety precautions as well, just so you are informed that it's not just willy-nilly. I will be keeping my technology available so that way we can use it for emergencies. We have an emergency contact over there. I am bringing all my emergency protocol paperwork with me, as well as we have purchased a, I don't even know what it's called, like emergency jet evacuation thing in case of an emergency. My family had an experience where my dad had an emergency situation while he was in international waters, and he was fortunate enough to be working for a company that used this emergency evacuation plan and flew him from where he was back to America, and they took him to Florida where he was able to receive the life-saving surgery that he needed. If that hadn't have happened, he would have not survived. He wouldn't have survived. So that type of evacuation has become really prominent and important in my family, and we know how life-saving it truly is. And so one of the things about taking this trip is that we wanted to have an emergency evacuation plan. So it's basically an insurance policy that if something were to happen and I end up in the hospital, we would be able to be airlifted from that hospital to the hospital of our choice back home, which hopefully we won't ever get to that. But just having that in the back pocket is a huge good safety practice. So that's trip number 2. Trip number 3 is kind of my lifelong trip dream coming to pass in a different way. I've always been an outdoor adventure person, and I love hiking and biking and canoeing and rafting. And for a long time growing up, I was trying to decide, do I want to be like an adventure whitewater raft guide, or do I want to be an actor? And I wasn't really sure which way to go. Went that way for a while. But the outdoors always hold a huge spot in my heart. And when I first discovered the Pacific Crest Trail, I knew immediately that it was where I needed to be. I needed to through hike it. It needed to be my home. It's a place I needed to be to really self-discover some things. But discovered it the same year as my diagnosis, and quickly learned that through hiking was not going to be the best option for my body. For anyone that doesn't know, the Pacific Crest Trail is like a 2,500 mile trail from the Mexican border to the Canadian border through California, Oregon, and Washington, in some of the most beautiful terrain. It can take anywhere from like 4 to 6 months to do. So you have to have that much time. You have to have that strength. You have to have that ability to take that chunk of time and go and do it. Plus you have to have a working body. Unfortunately, this body is not ready to do something like that. However, I still have always really wanted to do it. And so every year my dad and I have been going and hiking just a little section of it, so that way I can still live this dream in a different way. I'm really lucky this year that one of my dearest humans in the world is through hiking, and she has said it's okay if I come and join her for part of the trail. I'm in a really unique position right now where I don't have a job after leaving my job in June, and I've just been doing a bunch of like house sitting and my own work, where I don't have to be anywhere for a while. It's okay if I take some time and go. And I'm kind of in this spot where if I don't go and try and hike right now with someone that I trust, that knows my condition, that totally knows how to help me manage Addison's and is confident in giving me an injection if I need it, I don't know when I'll get that opportunity again. So I will be joining her at the Washington-Oregon border and heading north to Canada on foot. So that's going to be a totally different journey in my body. That's going to require crazy amounts of stress dosing. But for that trip, I've had to prepare physically, training as best as I can, not as best as I want to, but as much as my body will allow. Prepping all my food, dehydrating it, getting additional medication to take with me on this trip, because I'm going to need to have extra stress dosing, but also just extra medication in case anything happens. And I'm going to share how I'm going to divide that up later, but I have a lot of strategic planning for tackling Addison's in the woods for about a month. So these are all 3 very different things that are happening, and they all seem totally random and crazy, but they are. But I've also worked really, really hard to get here, and I feel really good that I'm in a place to take my body on these trials. Because if I don't go and try this and see what I can and can't do and learn to navigate these things, then I'll lose that part of adventuring that's such a part of me. So I'm processing as I'm saying these things. But I'm sharing what's happening because as I dive into each of these adventures, I want to give full disclosure and like give you a full glimpse into it, because I know so many of you with chronic illness and with Addison's disease or adrenal disease feel like we can't do what we want to do. And I want to say we can, we just have to do it in a different way. Maybe an entirely different way, but all things are possible. And I'm gonna find out how possible and how much I must accommodate to let this body go do what it needs to do. But that's it. The adventures begin next week, and I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride. And please share what you do on your journeys, and we will figure it out all together. As always, thank you guys so much for being here, sending you light and love and all of the spoons, and I hope you have a wonderful day.